all to understanding. That letter for the superstitious, intended for the repeating, or for the repentance and repetitive, completely for the complicated, for the competitive, no compensation for the anything to say that for the commentator, for the really is rare. Rear ends to the bump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations of reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with an no tentative for the tensions outside the intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally, generate that for the hot Jimmy genes and gene pools to justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energy for the charge to get the monthly. This is Robert, you've been changed. That was a bill of rights for the left, to distracted for the couldn't stand up and muddy water from complaints. Dehydration, conservation, the tube for the tolerate. Terrains when it rains, pay that dues. And living in the terrace of the terrible city for the losing the hide, the sight, the fight, the citation for the striking of the fireworks to get it and worked up for the patriotic protest of the patriarchy. Lying and patron for the bars to get shot by the police and patrol. This for the patron. I can find a patron living no limit with the limited limitation for the limited for the limited edition for the you can't stand a reunion of this new edition to find the rain. Comedy PD for the no for the joker, no zero for that can stand up me looking I'm doing my stand up for the enemy for the interview, no joke. I can find that doing stand up. I can find that for the owner to stand up for myself with the compromise in the public, never the promising but the kept quiet, completely lenient enough for the developer, the deviant, the deplorable for the owner, the circumstances deployed, and deprecated for the deprived until the detrimental for the definitely the determined to be the undeterminate. Execution for the execute, and this is for the executive for the executed for the expedition for the expedited for the expect that X to be asking question about the why. Well, Z cast that words for the lies out that mouth for the spell check, and then the subject for the check out the silent letters. You can be seen and heard and like the obsolete libraries and you heard and read about the history or another fictional story that is this is to be the patriarch for the fans and the patriots with patronizing patterns in the packs and the packs and the backs of those in front of them. Uranium, the fake planets, and like you can be the eyes with the plot out to be the plain example for the ignorance and the artificial intelligence for the aliens and the alienate themselves for the form of break with head leisureism for the games and plagues. They play out for the doubt, for the doubt, for the disbelief, the gift, for the benefit, for the doubt, for the taking back, for the debt. You're deprecated of the rose and paid that they're deprived. The fuel to cold was fire in the streets, the cancer, the complaint about the pavement, the copay, compliant, complicate, communication lines, age, lineage, God, leaner, leader for the rare, leader not for the raised, that raise, sure those assholes' assumptions to apparently appeal to the parents, the pair for the laughing stock, and the kids that kidding around in the future. Dark kid name, indigo for the bright, if it's India, and then India for the out of there for the minds of the bliss, and the media to give the media medals, and then even mediate for the metal medicinal, for the medieval for the reconciliation, the reminiscent for the renaissance, and the history that revolve around an evolution. Instead of that institution for the boundaries, constitutional for the contest of the contestants, to contemplate for the compensation to be compelled for the wise. W2 ways and fill out the poor for the blood, for this be the institution alive for the constitution, for the consistency for the consonants, consonants for the test of those for the consonants. They pronounce the word by the advocates for the administrative and the contradictory for the contract to the contrary. Contrast, compare companies, compare competitors, compensation for those who want them to complain for the corporation in order to do business. You're breathing for the freezing and you won't even care for the mixing, but you won't even know about the spending time with them for the working and buying into the season. You shop with the patterns and partnerships of the artists, you know, the unfounded conversations, completely comparative imperatives, taunting tones, and that with red on the newspaper that will lose and try to know with the speed of ignorance and they hate that for the wait for the beats to be uttered, the destructive for the constructive, the constructors, the statues of liberty for the liberals, left and right for the rights and left, and you can find it inside. I read the crime, they see for the deficit, for the defeated for the groundwork, they crown at that, disconnect for the souls, they walk for the shift, they don't even find that the dyslexic, but they walk on God for the sunset, for the race to hate, the finishing line, that for the fish that line of sight for the seafood, food that we don't want to see ourselves, eat that for the food chain for the total polar opposites of the polar bear for the barely made it to the extension for the exempt of the experience and it takes that example for the very X, that axis for the pits, arms for the army for the articles and the articles and the gun magazine for the articulating of the word and the art defining attributes, attribute for the dabs and the abs and the ad normal for the snowman for the snowman, note that for the sea for the over the snowball, know the effects for the change of the climate and organs and all of y'all would evolve in orgasms and organic sex and parties and the both after the pose of the pubes and find the portals and pubes and I find the publish the soul and negative.
completely for the complicated, for the competitive, for the no compensation for the anything to say that, for the common temper for the really is rare. Rearrange the pump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations and reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with a no tentative for the tensions on the outside. An intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally. Generate that for the hot Jimmy genes and gene pools to justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energies for the charging of the monthly subscriber to the changes that was a bill of rights for the left and the distracted for the couldn't stand with muddy waters complaints. Dehydration. Faulty understanding that letter for the superstitious intended for the repeating or for the repentance and repetitive, completely for the complicated, for the competitive, for the no compensation for the anything to say that, for the common temper for the really is rare. Rearrange the pump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations and reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with a no tentative for the tensions on the outside. An intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally. Generate that for the hot Jimmy genes and gene pools to justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energies for the charging of the monthly subscriber to the changes that was a bill of rights for the left and the distracted for the couldn't stand with muddy waters complaints. Dehydration. Conservation, the two for the tolerate. Terrains when it rains, pay that dues. And I live in the terrace of the terrible city for the losing the height, the sight, the fight, the citation for the striking of the fireworks to get in and worked up for the patriot, for protest of the patriarchy. Lying a patron for the bars to get shot by the police and patrol. This is the patron. I can find a patron, living no limit for the limited limitation for the limited for the limited edition for the you can't stand a reunion of this new year edition to find a rain. Comedy Pete even know for the joke and those who over there can stand me. Look at I'm doing stand up for the enemy for the interview. No joke. I can find that doing stand up. I can find that for the only to stand up for myself for the compromise and the problem. Never the promise about the kept quiet. Completely lenient enough for the development of giving the horrible for the point of success deployed. Deprecated for the deep pride until the detrimental for the definitely the other eternity to be there determined. Execution for the execute. This is for the executive for the executive for the expedition for the expedited for the expect that X to be asking question about the why. See cast that words for the lies out that mouth for the spell check. And the subject for the check out the silent letters. You can be seen or heard and like the obsolete libraries and you heard and read about the history or another fictional story that is this. Is to be the patriarchy for the vast of the patriots with patronizing patterns of the packs of the packs and the bags of the work for those who front of them. Uranium, the fake planets, and like you can be the asshole that plot out to be the plane. Example for the ignorance of the artificial intelligence for the aliens and the alienate themselves for the front of the plagiarism for the games and plagues. They play out for the doubt for the doubt for the dispute, given for the benefit of the doubt for the taking back for the debt. You're deprecated of the rules and pay that they deprived. The field of cold is flying the streets of cancer to complain about the pay for the copay. Compliant, complicate, communication lies, age, lineage, God, leaner, leader for the rare, enough for the rage that raises short of assholes assumptions. That apparently appeal to the parents and the pair for the laughing stock of the kids that are kidding around their future. Dark kid name, indigo for the bright, it is Indian. And India for the out of there for the minds of the blessed, the media to give them metals and medieval mediate for the medicinal, for the medieval for the reconciliation of reminiscent for the renaissance and the history to revolve around of evolution. Instead of that institution for the boundaries, constitutional for the contest of the contestants. To contemplate for the compensation to be compelled for the wise. The WT ways to fill out for the core for the blood for this will be the institution alive for the constitution for the consistency.
In the words, the bird is what they say. But I really didn't get that frame anyway. It was in supplement of a perfect copy, laying hands under those cheeks, laying under the pillow for the lawful enough for kissing. You can have that for the swelling, for the seam, that for the part for the sun. Angry to rubber for the such a bliss, and this to be the pill for the revenge, did it long for the this to be the cause, it did the wrong for the bed for the embedded for the fair for the hand, it wasn't for the remaining, I can find those who was perfect. I'd like to look like a daisy in the field of grass, that for the show, for the unmelting, for the smoothness tone, the sight, for the delay, for the pretty bird, the bird over the rest of the body, for that you can fall asleep with the fastest sleep, enough for the ice and never to be slow, for the close and lay, for the imprison, the beauty, for the more, yet for the doors forever such hits and stuff made for the broken, good breaking, I can find the self for the scorn, throwing in that kind of life and about that place, and she turns her smiles and smiles still, for the came near that face and beings, would you find some noble and now I can find a hair, the name, divided for the part of the cheek with the water, with the lips in the spot, I can find it's rude enough for the breath, but the still I find the wise is drought. Down with salt, falling short, curl back at the ring, something to turn again for the body to depart for the something unkind and held inside them. What is it I'm trying to figure out for this is psychology for the man-made? Who mind find that's the state of man? Split that for the true being. Speak of the rebellion with the kid, you can find an alien for the folks in mild enough as you can find it likewise as a spoon for the free thinking and lesbians. And maybe the same for the reactor, for the turncoat, for the he was raised, and never another for the consultation, for the explanation, for the thinking of your who. Find this Greek murder or matter for the person with that multiple mental disorder. One with that for the nonsense split off and not know who this self is, expression that will open to the press. Name for that for the Uber, the wants to be helping other for the life of the right and for the best, and the flick of the rings and the running on the reason and not the father. Full of get simple for the kind of voice to read for the rhetoric, side for the nature, voicing that is you. You are the knife for the teaching of the former generation, frenzy for the distaste in a certain direction. What was the cue you used for the decipher for the code for the just and how you were not told enough you were being told. How I find that ironic. Is that dirty face, and where did you get such a face like that? I got it for the crawling along that dirt. Maybe they was divided to new buttons off of the shirt and chewing the roots of the rose and digging for the clams in his yard. And I find I knows and got a peek into the dark cave, and I found that for myself in the Navajo brave. Plain cold bin, something changed. Sign my name for the cement with the chamfer. I got it rolling around over the rug and keeping over the you can find a hug and finding lost and silver for this beating back in the end. I feel like I can never wrestle tears, having more fun than I've had in years. That was supposed to be a joke. Stuck in a loop with the slick and enough for the information to lustre with something good for the timing to fold it over that for the soup before for the standing of the visual vital vibe for the pop inside for the vibe for the Mars and for the forces the diagrams and like that was anxious and our part attack for the bait and chasm. You can find that for the better as a swinging for the worldly grace and the model for the torment we folded over the other ones we remember to get up to be. I find that P for the gleaming the bowl so good that for the game for the jib for the eye for the play on the plea over that for the I was pissing up for the tucked out for the crevices of the this would be the mattress pad or something like the folding of the leak in the head for the you can find I already updates with the sweat. No sweat for the through the downtown for the find the loop. This is the gallery you can find the method for the wash. You mix up with the breath of the feather feeling like a bird for the twitching of the offshells like a warm of a heat. Art glad for the left to right. You can find that for the weird steep. Watching the fullness of the suspended for the internet floater. You can ocean of the air for them on that ozone for the lily pads and the embers with the dope. The busting over the thirst you I can find the depth of the mode for the dish for the joy of the night we do control for the stories of the river, the future for the clairvoyant, enough for the certainty for the clothing with you can find the spectacular enough to fit you would have mattered that they each by ferocity. I should have been bolder. Cut up in the border, but I bolder with a wish that. I wish I knew that for the turning over what you can find in clue for the distance, the only constellation coming along that's the side. Is it well for the holding the walls together for the host that floor, what's it together for the such point for the meaning, the distribution for the deviation. Inside that there for the guy and sticks this past the earth, on the earth's crust, this is be the stairs. On the find the acid enough for this find the spoon fork that for the truth for the eat the swallow for the enough for the digestion with the fact. One doesn't hope that have the clouds that have the answer, but the hope that for the clouds that have the answer. If you know how to find that let it fit enough to be tonic and you can't find the male inside that pale female part for this would be the fanny pack at 4 o'clock. Or the who knew that for the streets would be so liquefied for the lurching the dance. And this would be the bra for the sand for the hair for the distance, the sands for the shirt, and stepping with the beer for the band and let it better that fire that skirt for this would be the lead by that cotton and the century with the glass of this march. I think that for the pride for the march and the riding is on the side. Expect that for the remember the names and you can find that for the wherever you wave to for the steam of the clear sky. This would be the choosing of wine. I find the grip of the hand of the grave and the wondering what it is to death for the death for the devil be the turn to keep the leader and find out what's inside of me. Christ.
Whatever the money to find in the story that you can have the places you can keep your head in for the over the Bible losing yours and not be blaming on you for the trust in yourself for the men to doubt that you can find allowance and you for the doubt that you can wait for the ever to be tired of waiting but the light about for the doubt and deal with the lies and you be hated but give it away for the hated for the devil to look too good on you for the anyway for the talk too wise and if you can dream and you can make the dream a master. Think that you cannot think thoughts of your aim and meet for the triumph and disaster and treat those with the imposter just the same for the bear for to hear the truth and you've been spoken to for twisted you with name. I can make it trap for fools and watch the things you gave. I find your life to be broken and stupid. You found in building love with your burnout tools. Not stupid but stupid build. And after you can make one heap of all your winnings. Risk it all in a turn to pitch and toss and dissolution and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss and you can force that head start for the nerve for the never the sender for the server over too long over there gone long of gone for the holding on for there is nothing in you except that for the will but what you said then hold on you can take the crown you kind of find virtue for the kings and nor the losing kind of touching you for neither the foes and never friends earn you for the main count on you for nothing too much but you can ever for the unforgiving the minute for just thinking seconds and worth that for the distance run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, for which is more you'll be. Run. You can never take that car. You never float a flow for this to be the wings and float it over here for this to swim. Or just to find the things and maybe the science and anchor for the unless you roll to the country over the kind of day for the coming along for the this to be the oversight for the free for the this to be what kind of software for the us of that for this delivered for the country for the never for the this to be the what you can find that for the other I've been condescended. A body, a frame, miss nothing. Home to pieces. Away with that thought for the taking of your wings. There's a magical place in the middle of this poem where the truth lies in everything. One for the gift, for the friendship. One for the void, for the all curiosity. curiosity, rather left than the interest in the matters. Touching after the Lord himself, born and after the life for the who was born, for the fine line, for the giant, for the need to be the star, for the different, need the milk, for the camel, for the men, for the this to be the whale, so who could be the Platonius and never to play the hand, but after the compromise, it was something rare. If it had been perfect enough for the normal, so shyly for the this to be stripped down, for the sheet off, for the this to be the drinking of it, what you find the fruit of your nectar, and set it to find the liquid, the language, and had never been heard before, but such as this that I spoke it. It was a dialect that for the people folly, for whoever knows how to read that clue. Been molded, I've been told. That was an old school.
Besides, there's a fact that all school made.
It was all
Besides, there's a fact that all to be made. Besides, there's a fact that all to be made. It was all considerated. Consider for this to be the place where you messed up, where your word was obliterated. Obviously, you can find a different passage, a different frame for technology or your intelligence. Your mentality, just another find a mental. Ain't enough that this is said you with the overrule over me. Imaginary, you can find a vision. Vision, you can find imaginary if you can take a clue or hint. Well, you not believe in yourself so much, but I do want you to believe.